the poor waitress comes in and tries to take their food order that was
In the
so
middle of it.
cringy and awkward. The woman's like, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I take anybody's order? Does anybody want to order food? And Heather's like, can we please eat at least?
Like,
Can I
let's just get
have
something in.
something to eat? And
Heather and Amy are hungry. If they're going to
like,
sit through this, they want food.
that poor waitress needs to just be given a ton of money for even having to be able to enter that room while they're screaming and attempt to say, can I take your order? What would you like tonight? My
Yeah.
God.
Listener discretion advised. Adult language and mature content.
Where the drama is real and the wave is royal. With a dose of coffee, combo, and crime.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. It's Two Beans, One Screen. I'm Jen.
I'm Keely.
And last week, I told everyone about how I was cursed by a TikTok witch. And I now have to come back and retract what I was saying because it turns out I was just scammed. It wasn't actually the TikTok psychic that I was talking to that messaged me and threatened me, which makes a lot of sense because none of the words were the same. But Keely and I decided to do a deep dive of experiencing TikTok psychics and TikTok tarot readings and such. And I learned very quickly that I'm just dumb and fell for the number one scam that happens in this like little corner of the universe. Which
And tell them what it is. Yep.
So when you jump on one of those TikTok lives, people click on you and then they pretend to be the medium or the psychic and shake you down for money. Because I jumped into a bunch of lives over the weekend just kind of to get an idea of how it all worked because that had been my first foray into it.
Yeah.
And they all go, by the way, I will never direct message you for a reading. By the way, if you get a DM, it's not from me. And every single one said that over and over again, so I'm just an idiot.
I don't think you're an idiot, but
I'm not an idiot, I'm just gullible. Sort of. Right? How did it go for you as you did a little of your, we'll call it research?
So excited. So I did. I jumped onto a bunch of lives also. I had no idea how it worked. So I was just watching a bunch of different ones, male, female, people doing dowsing rods or crystals or tarot cards, right?
Okay. Dowsing rods are the weirdest thing.
Yeah. They look like those sprinkler keys.
Yeah, they're just like doo-doo-doo.
Yeah.
I had seen a woman do TikToks before where people would send her questions and then she'd just make a post about it. Just to answer the question, she'd go, are ghosts real?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is Bob going to ask me to marry him? No.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What is God a man?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, he's not. And it was just like, that's how she was going through everything based on if they went together or apart.
Yeah.
And though I've now in my feed, I'm starting to see live versions of people with different versions of those. And they're going, yep. Like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen the lady that spins the coin?
No.
So she has this magical coin. It looks like a quarter. And I think it's gold. Anyway, and she has different bowls or plates that she spins it on. And so she does that same thing. People will comment and say, am I going to have a baby? Or am I going to get more money in my job? And right. And so then she would spin her coin and one side says yes and the other side says no. And so that's what she would do. She says her spirit guides are doing the coin. So she spins it and the spirit guide will stop the coin on the yes or the no for the answer. So there's that one too. But I digress. So
okay.
I was on a bunch of lives and feeling very overwhelmed and thinking, okay, I don't know which one to really stop on. So I stopped on a bunch and was trying to get a feel for them, right? Do I like what this person is saying. I don't know. And there was one, and I didn't really care for the people that I could see their face. Like they were on talking like you and I are talking to the camera.
I have the opposite. I want to see their face.
Yeah, I didn't want to see their face. That's what I figured out. I was like, okay. Now I don't want to see their face. So I would hear them talking in the background, right? And they just have their camera pointed at, I don't know, a window or something, answering the questions. And so I stopped on this one lady. I don't remember her name. Anyway, I stopped on this one lady that I was like, I really like her answers. And there was a lot of people in her live. And so I asked her a question because it was free. Yes or no question was free. You didn't have to pay for it. But she was only doing one question. And so I asked her a question, and it was a personal question to see if a person that I know would have contact with me again. And I didn't say the person's name. I just put the person's first initial. And she got to my questions. So she was doing them as they came in. I could watch her. She wasn't like skipping anybody, because a lot of people would do that. They would just kind
Based
of
on
grab
who sent things.
Yeah. They wouldn't ask or answer each question that came in. She was answering each question that came in. And she had tarot cards. So she would pull a card and hold it towards the camera. Anyway, so she got to my question. The questions, she stopped on my question. She goes, oh, like that. And I thought, uh-oh, crap. She stopped and she goes, oh, she read out my question. And she goes, oh, this is a hard one. And she stopped again and she goes, the answer is kind of yes and kind of no. And I don't want to say that this is really hard for me to answer. And so she pulled out the card of the deck. She showed it. And I don't remember what it was because I couldn't see it really well. But it was a dark card. Something dark was on it. And she said, okay, the answer to your question is this person will not reach out to you. This person has way too much pride and wants you to reach out to them first. But if you do that, then they will start to have contact with you. But they're waiting for you. And this person is waiting for you. But this person is super prideful. And I hope that answers your question. Sorry I had that reaction. It was very big. Your question and my answer was very big. And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Right? I totally got freaked out. So I left. And then, I think you had told me, people started sending me messages that I wasn't on these people's lives. So other psychics or witches were sending me DMs saying, if you want a reading, this is how much it costs. Or I never reach out to people. I never text anybody, but I'm texting you
but I have a message.
But I have a message for you. Yeah. And so I clicked on one of them. I had not talked to you. I had no idea what was going on. This is before I talked to you. So I clicked on one of them, and her question was like, do you want more information? And I said sure. And she texted me back and she goes, send me a picture of your left palm. So I sent it to her. And then she said, I want your full name and your birth date. And I said, no, never mind. No, thank you. And she didn't bother me back. Mm-hmm. And then I saw another video where this woman on TikTok said, I hired an Etsy witch. Yeah. And I was like, what the hell is that? So I went on to Etsy and I bought one. I bought one for $20.
Okay.
And I went through a bunch of them, and I would read the reviews, and some reviews would say this is completely AI. Don't pay this person. And a lot of those Etsy witches were like $1 a piece or $2 a piece. But the girl that I bought it from, she had her face and it was $20. And the other reviews and photographs were like, this is real, right? She's not AI, it's an actual person doing this. And I thought, okay, it's $20. I really don't care. And she's in North Carolina. So there's 5 questions that she asks you, like your name and your birthday and your gender and, what your question is, but it can be kind of a compound question. And if the person you're wanting the spell for, right, what their name and their birthday and their gender is. And that was kind of it. So I thought about asking the same question that I asked for the TikTok witch. And I thought, no, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to ask for something personal for me. So this woman sends you a spell. She sends you a candle and a bunch of different items to mix and make your own spell, and you light the candle and you do whatever she tells you. That's your spell. So it's not like she just sends you a PDF with the answer. She actually puts
You're getting a physical thing.
Package, with instructions. And she texted me back and said, I'm getting your spell and your ingredients together, and I will mail it out to you on the 7th. And I said, okay, thank you very much. Nice to meet you. And she said, oh, nice to meet you too. And so I feel really good about it. I'm super psyched.
Oh, that sounds magical. I'm very excited about that.
For my Etsy witch.
Seen those. So it was like if you and your ex-boyfriend were still spiritually connected, there's still something going on. This woman would make videos where she would take 2 candles and then tie a string around them and then light the candles, and it's supposed to disconnect you and to free you from the bondage of whatever. Yeah. And then she would read whatever had happened.
Oh, okay.
From that. And I always thought that was really interesting. I want to get my chart read. I want to do a spell.
Go look on Etsy.
I'm going to check that out.
There's all different kinds. Like I said, they can send you a PDF or they can send you an actual.
I like the idea of an actual little physical something.
Items.
Happening. Yeah. I went on and I did. So the process is you can send them things and it's money. So you can put $10 into TikTok and then send them a corgi butt, a corgi with their butt shaking at them. And then they say, if you do this, this, or this, this one is a yes, no question. This one is a 6-card reading. This one is a 3-card reading. And I did a couple of them. And I did one. I found this guy that he made me laugh because it was just a guy and he's sitting in one of those old peacock chairs, rattan peacock chairs. Yeah. It's got gates and vines and it's a cute little witchy corner of his house, I guess. And his name was Madam Adam. Oh, cute. And he was wearing an exorcist shirt. And somebody had said something rude to him in the TikTok. And he just starts giving them a dressing down. And he was like, oh, I do what I want. Of course, yeah, I'm wearing this shirt because the exorcist is cool. And and then I realized that he also, when I clicked on his profile, he was from the Orlando area. Which I'm also from the Orlando area. So I was like, what's up, Orlando area? And I chatted a little bit. And he was responding to me and everyone else in the thing. And sometimes he was very sweet. He's like, oh my gosh, also in the Orlando area. And then we were talking about coffee shops that we liked. And then he also, in the middle of him doing readings for other people, and then also him dressing down anybody that said anything rude. Wow. And he had these, just regular dude. And he also had these really intense nails. Long, polished, pointy. But I got one from him. I got a card reading. And it was that I have new things coming at me and I need to take charge of myself and decide that that's what I'm going for, and then actually just continue to say yes to it instead of being passive, I think is what it was. It was fun. It was $10. And would I do it again? Absolutely. But I think I'm going to invest in getting an actual reading. Yeah. Done. / or getting my chart done.
Yeah.
I think is going to be my next step. But
amazing.
It is my new hobby, I think.
Oh my gosh. I am so addicted to it. I can't stop.
It's crazy. It's so fun though. And it's also fun to watch like the questions that people have.
Yeah.
And it's also, there's a lot of things that you're not allowed to ask. Like you're not allowed to ask if you're pregnant, if it's going to be a boy or a girl, if you have cancer.
Yes. Right. Right.
All that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it's still fun to see what people are wondering about.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And then
so fun.
It's a fun little pastime. Almost as fun as the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Whitney is very into all of these things, right?
Is
Huge.
she? Oh, yeah,
so.
yeah. That was like what her jewelry line was kind of based off of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought this was kind of a fun, everything's a little bit messy and we don't know where everyone stands. We know exactly where everyone stands because Lisa decided where everyone stands. I was a little surprised by how it all shook out though. Last week, Lisa said to Heather that she lives a very different life than these other women.
Yeah.
She does big things. This episode, Dismissed is the title of it, opens with her setting up an event. It's going to have Steve Carell. It's going to have Jason Schwartzman, I think.
Yeah.
Just big names. This episode was just her name dropping left and right. She is working with A-list stars, like big name people. That is something that she does. In that way, I think she's correct. But overall, I think it sets her up to fail when she is in that mindset. But she's setting up the event. She's clearly doing a really good job. This is a high-profile, fancy thing that she's got going, and she's doing it with ease. She's saying that she's basically unbothered by the fact that she found out that these other women are talking about her. And basically that the other women don't understand what she's doing, and that when you are successful in business, getting sued just comes with the territory. Yeah. Like, if you have money, people will be suing you. Yeah. It doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. She's whatever about it. Plus, she's got 6 lawyers on retainer, one to deal with every different subject of something that might come up. Yeah. And we knew that she was litigious early in this series. When Jen Shaw got arrested, and she was on the phone with different lawyers in the Sprinter bus and asking, like, what do we do? What's this going to be? How serious is this? I mean, we knew that she was locked up with her lawyers. Yeah. This whole thing is so wild, and it's above my understanding. Like, I'm willing to accept that Lisa's definitely lives a very different life than I do, and I know does much bigger things than me. I'm not going to say anything for the other ladies. And she kind of sets up that she's planning on setting up this lunch and skeet shooting in Park City. Bronwyn is there, and you are fully Team Lisa. And Keely has been sending me every article. Keely is ready to take down Bronwyn. This is going to be our biggest fight. If you guys thought that we got intense over Huda, this is going to be our Lisa versus Bronwyn. I'm Team Lisa and Team Bronwyn. Sure, yeah. I get that. I love them both. I love them even as flawed as they are. But Keely's done with Bronwyn. So she is sitting down to lunch with Todd, and she is kind of giving us an update with how things are with her. When they were at the reunion last year in New York, it was hard to watch because everyone calls out Todd because he talks down to her a lot and scolds her. And that's not how you should be talking to each other in a partnership. Todd is a lot older than her. Didn't he like invent the BlackBerry or something? Something like that. Something like that, yeah. Everyone kind of called him out for being a dick to her and being really condescending. Yeah. And Bronwyn says, since that, he really took those things to heart and has been speaking differently and more thoughtfully to her, much more kindly to her. And now they're together, and it seems like he is coming at her much more softly. And we find out that her life is very, very different than what it was last year. So we know that her daughter has moved in her boyfriend. We also find out that she moved her parents in with her and Todd. It's because they were both having issues. Her mother had a brain tumor. Luckily, it was treatable, and she's recovering. Her father has Alzheimer's, and they decided that his care needed more intense care. I guess I don't know exactly how to say it. But they put him in a facility, and they're seeing him every day. It's close to their house, so the mom's able to do that. And Todd is basically footing the bill for a lot of this while they're getting everything sorted out. Her family is from Northern California, and they have that house that's there, and the mom is bit by bit sorting through it. But there's, decades worth of stuff in there.
Yeah.
And I was wondering how you reacted to seeing that. A lot of this episode, I was really thinking about you, because you told us a little bit. Yeah, I just feel like you have an insight, more of a connection to this with, you told us a little bit about like what's you're dealing with your dad. And I was wondering if that, like, this episode brought up stuff for you and what your feelings were towards Bronwyn as she was talking about this.
Yeah, I don't want to say triggered, but I was triggered watching this a little bit. It made me, my chest kind of was tight watching it. I was uncomfortable watching Todd and Bronwyn interact in the restaurant. He didn't seem to support her, in my view. I know my husband and I are not the relationship to compare everybody's relationship to, but when I say things like she was saying to her husband, my husband would look at me and say, "Can I help you with anything? Do you need anything from me? I'm so sorry that happened to you." Like, would try and make me comfortable, try and maybe say, "Oh, you shouldn't think about yourself like that," or, "Oh, it'll be okay. We'll work on what's going on with your dad," or, he's comforting and supportive. And I didn't get that from Todd. He was still really abrasive, kind of.
It seemed like he shut down.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like a lot of this is happening, and he doesn't really have a say in it.
Right.
Not that he doesn't have a say, but he's just like, now I have to deal with this. Thanks a lot.
And some of these memory cares are $10,000 a month or more. And that's a lot of money a month to be paying. Right. And he can be a little bit upset about that aspect. I could see that part, but I mean, he was not supportive to her. He was not loving to her. He just barked at her and told her what to do. Like, you shouldn't, who gives a shit about Lisa? Don't pay attention to her. Right. She's just rude and a bitch. Lisa's rude. And, and I do, even though I cannot stand her, I do feel bad for her. When he speaks to her like that. And then we see her mother in her home, which was super triggering. And I was flashbacking to Monica and her mother, them not having a good relationship, or her mother bullying Monica. And I hate saying this, but I can kind of see where Bronwyn gets her really mean, nasty attitude from her mother, because her mother was not kind.
Her mom, no. And it seems like Bronwyn is being very supportive of her mother, and very supportive of her father, and trying to be as helpful as possible. And she opens up to her mom. It was kind of heartbreaking, where she's saying, Dad's Alzheimer's, he doesn't really realize who I am anymore. He sees me as he saw me, 15, 20 years ago. And that's triggering, one, because her daughter is about that age. So he's looking at her daughter, Gwen, and thinking that that's Bronwyn.
Yeah.
And then going, no, that's Gwen. And he's thinking he remembers Gwen being this big. He doesn't, it doesn't totally catch. And so where Bronwyn is in his mind is where she was when she was a single mom, brand new, dealing with this, and had dropped out of college, all the things he didn't want for her. And Bronwyn's saying, that wasn't my proudest moment. That wasn't when I felt like I was where I wanted to be. It took me a longer time. She described it as I had to circle the drain a couple times before I figured out my direction. I think that that's incredibly commendable. And I also think that being judgmental of people for when they are figuring it out and sorting it out and finding their direction, instead of supporting people in that phase, kind of sucks, especially it's your mom. You want your mom to support you. And then she gives her no fucking credit and goes, well, it's because Todd is supporting you. And all of this is because of Todd's money. She says it directly. And she's like, well, fuck. Thanks, Mom. She had a career in finance.
She did.
That's where she's rubbing elbows with people like Todd. That she got herself to on her own without a college degree. And her mom's like, well, it's really just because you met Todd. She's fucking getting him to pay all your bills, Mom. And she's like, I'm used to it by now. I wish that I didn't have it hurt my feelings. I wish that my mom accepted me more. And it was just like, holy fucking shit. That sucked. Oh. And I felt badly for her in that moment. And then there's also, she and Meredith connected because Meredith's dad passed last year. And she went through a similar process with her dad. And I thought it was really nice that the two of them were able to kind of open up. And I love Meredith.
I do too.
I really think that Meredith is like a genuinely good person. And I appreciate that she's kind of keeping out of the fray right now, even though she gets hammered for it later. But I think that she could be friends with just about everybody there other than Brittany.
True.
Well, Meredith, I love Meredith. And I liked that she was very there for Bronwyn in that moment.
Me too.
And then it moves over to Angie and her dad. And Angie's reminiscing with her dad. He brings out a bunch of pictures. Angie's dad seems incredibly sweet. And just a lovely guy. And we learned earlier in one of the earlier seasons that Angie's mom passed when she was not very old. And so she was kind of raised by her dad and extended family. And he's bringing out these photos that Angie hasn't seen before. And it's photos of his childhood when he was in Greece and in Crete. She's like, everyone's so serious in these photos. Was it because the cameras took a long time, or were you guys really just that serious? And he's like, no, we were really just that serious because life was really hard. And then he explains that he was 7 years old when the Germans came to his town. And the men tried to fight the Germans, but it wasn't a fair fight. And then the Germans burned all their houses down. And then they had to escape to the United States. Holy shit, this man has been through so much. Oh my God. I loved him already because he was already sweet in other episodes when Angie had some events. But then just your heart goes out to this man.
Oh,
I love that the Real Housewives is kind of peppering in more of these things because even Angie says, my day-to-day, my biggest problem is I need to make sure I get my microdermabrasion done early enough that it's healed by the next event I have to go to. And he literally was chased out of his town, burning town by Germans. It puts things into perspective.
Oh my God, And
it also, I'm not the biggest Angie fan, but the way that she is with her dad, I think is really nice. So then we have Heather. I love Heather. Heather's so hard. Heather is heathering.
Again.
All over this episode. Still my number one, Heather. I love you. You do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want.
Ma'am.
She's redoing this room in her house. It's like this giant sunroom. with like windows all around.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty. It had been a storage room for her daughters, but she cleaned it out and she's making it into her creative office space so she can stop working in her bedroom and turn her bedroom into a love den. Fully support this for her. She said she wrote 2 of her books from her bed.
Yeah.
Now she's like, I want to have this workspace that now I can free up just in her general bandwidth. She was afraid to take on new projects and things because she was already doing the full-time mom thing and already had her business. But now she feels like with her daughters leaving the nest, she feels like she can take on these things and feel excited and good about it. And I love this evolution for her.
Yeah.
I wish it included better sunglasses because this was just another episode of another pair of bad sunglasses.
Yeah.
But she looks great. She's moving in this direction that I think is so healthy for her, and she's doing the self-care that she needs. Angie comes over to, I guess, pick paint colors.
Yeah.
They do pink, and it's an pink white and an ice white and then a butter yellow. It's like, why are we? It looks like a nursery.
White and white. Yeah.
White and white. They get together and she's talking about this, and then they start talking about teenage daughters and how rough it is because Angie brings up, I've decided to go for my Greek citizenship, and my daughter does not give a fuck. It's like, she's like, I thought she would be so excited. Electra, what do you think of me doing this? Isn't it great? And Electra literally goes, I don't care.
Don't care.
I don't care. I don't see the point of it. And you've made being Greek your whole identity, and her daughter doesn't feel as connected to it. You also hear, and Heather, was like, yeah, you're in this position where it's like you have to put your ego aside because it's just rejection and bullshit. Oh, I'm dealing with that. I'm getting the very beginning stages of that right now with my preteen sons, who don't appreciate how cool I am and how much I do. Yeah. I was told I was a mediocre parent over the weekend. So that one's a real rough one. Yeah. To swallow. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you raised a kid. Were you listening to that and just going, solidarity?
Check. Yes, I was. I was like, that actually happens. They don't care about you. It's literally one day they're this kid that you are doing everything for. They ask you for everything. They call you mommy. And then the next day they wake up and they're like, I don't care if you live or breathe or die, or please leave me alone. And why do you live in this house? And please stop talking to me. And you're like, wait, what just happened? wait, I'm not ready for this. I was just literally helping you put on your clothes a second ago. Yeah. And now you don't need me? What do you mean?
I used to know everything, and now I know nothing.
Yep. Yeah.
Other than math. I'm killing it, by the way. 7th grade math, killing it.
Good.
I'm doing so good at 7th grade math right now. I think 8th grade math, I'm going to be out. But right now, I can still help with that. But yeah, it's... Yeah. The rejection, the teenage rejection is rough was just the general gist of it. And then they pivot over to talking about Lisa at Amy's party. And Heather was like, yeah, I hid. I just ran away. I was like, oh, yeah. And they just show her. She's like, oh, no. And they're like, no, we need you to come listen to this. Whitney was trying to bring Heather back, and Heather was like, I can't. Oops. And
yeah.
And she says, we have a friend right now that is either in financial distress, living a lie, or is under attack. And this is where she Heathers. And she was like, I'm trying to have compassion for her because, she's one of my close friends and I genuinely care about her, but also she's making it very difficult. And then she tells the story about how when they were at lunch, Lisa was telling I live a very different life than you. I do big things. None of you women do things as big as I do. You don't understand. And Heather was rolling her eyes in front of her at that point, but she's telling Angie this, and Angie, that works up Angie.
Yeah.
And Angie's like, she's self-aggrandizing, and she's so braggy. And I see where Heather is coming from, where she's saying, listen, you two were very close. Because they were.
Mm-hmm.
She and Angie were super close. And now, it's like, now they're the ones that are the farthest apart in all of this.
Yeah.
And the most at war. And she's like, so what is going on? Like, are you gonna... They both feel betrayed. So Lisa feels super betrayed that Angie would be the one to say something shitty.
Yeah.
And bring it up and, like, continue that conversation. Then the Jen Shaw comment, which sucks. And Angie's like, well, I feel super betrayed too. Heather's position in it is she sees what everyone's complaining about with Lisa, but also she wants to be Lisa's friend. Mm-hmm. And she's like, I can't change her. But it is, some of her behavior recently is kind of indefensible towards the other women. So she's stuck between a rock and a hard place. I don't know. What did you think of that? Well,
Heather, the whole thing started with Heather's idea at the dinner table to get out your phone and read the horrible things that you wrote about each other. And that's why Angie and Lisa hate each other, because Lisa's like, Sean does circle jerks, and Angie cannot get over all the stuff that Lisa said, right? But they all said just as bad as stuff about Lisa and John and their relationship. And I think that's why we are where we're at with these women, because they can't get over that dinner and what was said. But you know who can? Heather, because Heather started it.
Heather's like water under a bridge.
Right.
I mean, Mary said to her face, you know, she's like, do you think I like inbred?
Right.
Yes. And Heather's like, hey, Mary. Like, she's... her ability to forgive and forget, I mean, maybe it's because they're drinking enough that it, like, can work for her. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to move forward.
I know.
I want everyone to, because at this point it's like tit for tat. Mm-hmm. But somebody needs to call truce and then actually stand by it. I just don't think that anyone can.
Yeah, true.
So here's where I was saying I was a little bit surprised, where I said everyone's a little bit mixed up with who's friends, who's not friends. There wasn't a clear division. Well, decided to make a clear division. She has this afternoon planned up at the Blue Sky Lodge, which was gorgeous, and she has the A-team comes to do skeet shooting, which looks like so much fun.
Yeah.
And everyone but Heather was very good. I found it impressive. Have you ever been skeet shooting? I did it in Idaho, and we did pretty good.
Yeah.
Lisa was very good.
Very good. Yes.
Lisa was very good. Maybe don't fuck with Lisa when you see how good she is at a gun.
Yeah.
At a gun. She's good at guns. But her A-team was Lisa, Mary, Heather, Meredith, and Amy, who is, I guess, the friend of this season. Mm-hmm. She's the richest lady probably there. Yeah. Then she's explaining to them, I just want to have this nice time with you. This is where I recharge. I don't want to ruin it by having the other ladies here doing this with me, but we'll see them at lunch. I have something planned at lunch. Everything's going to be crazy at lunch. So everyone's bracing themselves for whatever she has planned.
Yeah.
The D team and everyone who was not allowed to go skeet shooting is Angie, Bronwyn, Whitney, and those make sense. I understand why she didn't invite them skeet shooting. She also didn't invite Brittany. Mm-hmm. Brittany came for lunch, but she didn't come skeet shooting.
Yeah. Yeah. I
was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, apparently they were really close, according to Brittany.
Well, when Brittany's the one who told her everything that Angie said.
Yeah.
And Brittany seems 100% on Team Lisa.
I think she didn't do it because she was afraid that Brittany would open her mouth and just tell everybody. Brittany's one of those loose cannons that you're like, I'm not sure if she's going to spill the beans or not, because she's going to spill the beans. So
that's me, by the way. I'm a spill the beanser, usually.
Yeah.
Don't tell me something bitchy. I don't mean to be that way, but I also I feel like Brittany's super desperate.
Oh, God, yeah.
the amount of smoke that she was blowing up Lisa's
fuck
ass. While also trying to be like, I'm also cool like Lisa, but can we talk about me a little bit? You noticed that a couple times.
Right.
So they walk in to the lodge, and they are in this private dining room that has been decorated with very pretty flowers and giant poster boards of these court records or
lawsuit. They're
the paperwork from lawsuits.
Yeah.
And then like stamps that say dismissed all over it.
Mhm.
And also like glamour shots of Lisa in front of them. And then also she had a blow up picture of her and John on a yacht.
Mm-hmm.
And then another picture of her and John at a basketball game.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good picture of you that you have blown up on a giant poster on easels all around the room.
Yeah.
And it was compared to a science fair. Bronwyn, I think, said that she got that printed out at FedEx Kinko's for projects in high school. And Mary was very disappointed in the quality of the printouts because they were blurry. And she's like, it makes me dizzy. I don't like this.
Yeah.
Mary didn't totally grasp what was happening. I was like, I don't get it, but that could have been printed better. Basically, Lisa's like, I want to clear everything up.
Mm-hmm.
You can ask me any questions. Everything's been dismissed. Everything's fine. Allegations are not the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I can get sued for any reason. It's just part of doing business. And she's like, so you guys have brought all of this up about, the records that are in the paper.
Yeah.
But you didn't spend the extra $25 to see that they were the dismissals.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I was going to ask you.
Like, for instance, in Idaho, we have the records website. They call it a portal. And you can go on there for free, enter your name, my name, and click on the case number. But if you want to see actual pieces of paper, you have to pay that to that website. So they don't just give you the actual documents on these websites. So I'm guessing Utah is like that also. So you have to pay, even here in Idaho, you would have to pay to look at something. Unless you sign up for like a yearly or monthly plan where that's what attorneys do. So they pay a monthly fee to this website, then they don't have to pay per piece of paper that they look at. Then they can look at everything.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But the women start to ask a few questions, but all of it is very accusatory.
Yeah.
And Lisa starts off easy breezy and above it and cooler and has it. And then as they continue to push and ask questions, Angie kind of goes at her a little bit. Bronwyn goes at her a little bit. And then Whitney goes after her a little bit. And it just escalates over and over and over again. And she said, we're denying all allegations. And they're like, okay, but that doesn't explain anything. She's like, well, it's all false. It's all not real. We're denying it all, or it's been dismissed. They are asking about specific things. And her reaction a couple of the times is, it's none of your fucking business.
Yeah.
And it just keeps going back and forth. And it's her ping-ponging. And a couple of the times it seemed like she was about to answer a question. And Meredith stepped in at one point. And they're like, you didn't even stand up for her, Meredith. And Meredith is like, yeah, I did. I just didn't get into the fray with you. And then they start going after Meredith. And I didn't care for that because I don't think Meredith deserved it. I thought the whole thing was childish on everyone's part. Lisa setting it up, I don't know how she thought it was going to go any other way. Whitney comes at her. Then it's shocking to Whitney when she's like, yeah, but isn't your business also falling apart? Mine's flourishing. Brown was like, don't talk about her business. Like, well, we're talking about Lisa's business, so I think we can actually. The whole thing was so bizarre to me. And I need Whitney to stay in her fucking lane. Because I will say, Lisa is in a whole different stratosphere than what Whitney is doing. So Whitney having criticism for her businesses when Whitney's businesses have done so terribly, just shut the fuck up. Like, you're out there like a raw nerve. You're not the person to have this fight, babe.
Yeah.
And Whitney loses her shit. Lisa starts losing her shit. Whitney loses her shit, but then Whitney's getting up, and then she's in her face, and she's running around. It was so uncomfortable. And we got literally nowhere in any of it.
The poor waitress comes in and tries to take their food order. That was so cringy and awkward. The woman's like, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can I take anybody's order? Does anybody want to order food? And Heather's like, can we please eat at least?
Like,
can
let's
I have
just get
something to eat? And
Heather and Amy are hungry.
Like,
if they're going to sit through this, they want food.
That poor waitress needs to just be given a ton of money for even having to be able to enter that room while they're screaming and attempt to say, can I take your order? What would you like tonight? My God.
It was really bad. I think that Lisa didn't do herself any favors. And I think that no one came out of that looking good. I don't think, other than Mary and Meredith, I think are the only people that were like, and that's because they didn't say shit.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. How did you feel watching all that?
Oh my God. First of all, I have to say, a colleague that I work with, that she and I talk about this and watch it, talk about it at work. She said that Whitney's red hair is so bad that she looks like Chucky because it's just this terrible copper color. If Whitney wanted to go red, she should have been like yours, like an auburn or something, but not that bright orange Chucky hair. She looks terrible. And now I can't unsee it.
Well, they were saying Bravo women who do the red bob are having a personal crisis.
Right.
And it was Whitney with this red hair. It was Katie Maloney. Yeah. Remember she had the orange hair and Tom poured the beer on her? Oh, the orange bob. There was someone else too that got an orange bob, and now I can't. It's lost on me. But it's not. That is a crisis terror.
Oh yeah. And then secondly, what the hell else is Lisa supposed to do? These women are just, every single one of them are attacking her. And they are relentless and they won't stop. And they are not having compassion at all. We're expected to have compassion for Bronwyn. We're expected to have compassion for Whitney. But they turn around and attack her. They attack Lisa. What the hell else is Lisa supposed to do? So I
think it comes from Lisa. They're all just so used to Lisa attacking them. And this is what we were talking about. Like, this is, you did it, so you did this. And we can't go far enough back to ever fix it because they're going to be ping-ponging in retaliation for the other one for the rest of forever.
Yeah.
Until someone calls a truce.
Sure. I thought they could have got somewhere if... I guess it just didn't get so escalated when I think Lisa maybe started it off with, it's none of your fucking business, and that kind of laid that track for how it went. I was a little nervous that Whitney was going to haul off and hit Lisa. I thought she was going to strike her. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was so close to her. I was waiting for something like that to happen.
She was in her face. It was
bad.
It was bad.
Yeah.
I disappointed her. I think, unfortunately, Lisa is so quick to deflect and so quick to go, yeah, but what about you? Instead of addressing what they're saying to her. Not that she owes them an explanation. That's the thing that sucks, is it's if you go, listen, I'm not going to get into it. We're dealing with it. I'm not worried about it. We've got it handled. That's all I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And then if she could stay by that, but it's impossible when it's like going after her. Did you watch What Happens Live?
I saw a couple clips. I didn't watch the whole thing.
So a few things about Watch What Happens Live. One, Peacock is saying that Watch What Happens Live is an episode of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. We're not the only people to notice this. No. Everyone is pissed about it.
Yeah.
Please get this fixed, Bravo.
Yes, we hate it.
We can switch back and forth if we want to see. I don't need it in the fun because we didn't just watch episode 6.
Nope.
Watch episode 3.
Yes.
It's numbered wrong, and that does fuck me up.
Yeah, me too.
They had a guy that had been like a professional hockey player on, and he was super funny. I really liked him. As they were doing the polls, one of the questions was, whose side were you on with the fight? And in general, people were not on Lisa's side. So it was like Lisa side, and then the other one was Whitney, Angie, Bronwyn, and they won overwhelmingly. And he said, no, that was 3 against 1. That's not cool. So no, I'm not. I'm on Lisa's side, even though everyone else, people were hammering her in the polls on every subject.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, this was not a fair fight. I'm not cool with this. So, and I agreed with him on that. And then one of the other questions that they had that I thought was interesting was, would you prefer to be on team A or team D? And team A is, and like hang out with for a night, Lisa, Heather, Mary, and Meredith. Or team D, Bronwyn, Angie, Brittany, and Whitney. Who would you rather hang out with?
Oh, A. I'm A.
I would also be on A.
A for everything.
I think that sounds like way more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Even though in this fight, in general, right now, with the fight that's happening, I'm Team Bronwyn.
I know.
Not that I think that the way that this all shook out was great, but I do think that Lisa was attacking Bronwyn, and so Bronwyn's going to tit for tat with her. So I don't think Bronwyn's totally out of line for any of it. Like, that's just how doing it. And Bronwyn's doing a very organized attack on it. So if they're going to be fighting, Bronwyn's fighting well, whereas I think Lisa is just kind of crashing out. I want Lisa to be more organized with what she's doing, and she isn't. She's kind of flailing.
I think it's really difficult when you have 5, 6, 7 people against one, like Huda.
Yeah.
Right? The entire villa was against her. And this is how this is. The entire friendship group is against her. Maybe Meredith is in there once in a while.
Even the people that are on her side.
Yeah. Are throwing her under the bus.
Are throwing each other under the bus. Being like, well, she's not really on. Meredith didn't speak up for you. Well, Heather went and told XYZ. Well, they're hanging out.
Yeah.
And so I think that if you were Lisa, it's a tough place to be in. I think it's probably not helping how she's reacting to it. Well, do I get why she's reacting to it? Sure. I just think that in the way that these women are in their dynamics, I think saying, I'd love to clarify all of this for you, it's none of your fucking business, isn't the best way to, like, get them to stop.
Yeah.
But this is why it's a good TV show, is because this is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
And can I now bring up what I sent you?
Yes.
And talk about that?
Yes.
So this is another thing that bothers me so bad about Bronwyn. Bronwyn attacking Lisa about her businesses and about her civil lawsuits when Bronwyn is a convicted criminal herself. Bronwyn has a criminal history past. She's a convicted criminal, and the fact that her court case has been sealed does nothing to the fact that she was charged and convicted of it. Nothing to do with it. That's it. Records being sealed is only to prevent you and me and anyone else from paying that $25 and looking at it. The bitch is still a criminal. So, Lisa is not being charged criminally. Lisa's not been convicted. Lisa's not in prison. Bronwyn is a convicted felon. And nobody's bringing it up.
Felon.
It's a felony. So she is a convicted felon, and no one is bringing it up, but we're supposed to have grace for her and for Whitney? I don't think so. No, thank you very much. And Bronwyn saying, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about my court case. It's sealed. We're not allowed to talk about. Bitch, yes, you are. You can talk about it. It's not been expunged. It's not been shielded. It's not been erased. You pled guilty or were found guilty and you were charged. Yes, you can talk about it.
Why would something like that be sealed?
They seal it for a number of reasons. Maybe for an employer not to be able to see it, for military reasons, applying to get into school for a profession.
So it's like I do have a felony, but it's a sealed case, so they can't use it against them?
No, they can. They just are not allowed to read it. She can look it up just like I did and see what the charge is, see when she was charged with it, see what happened to it, see that she was
What is
either
the charge?
Identity something, identity theft.
Like identity theft or fraud?
Something like that. Identity something. And you can look all of that up. You can see it. She just can't read the documents. And for Bronwyn to say in all of these articles, oh, I can't talk about it, it's a sealed case. Yes, you can. You don't know the definition of these words, of this language. That's not it.
I mean, I didn't have an understanding of it.
Right. And
So-
she's putting it out there and making herself look better than Lisa when she's not. She's worse than Lisa.
Apparently she's going to explain part of it later this season, is what I heard.
Well, I can't wait for that lie. I can't wait for that snake in the grass and look at all this smoke and mirrors shit, because that's what she's doing online, is all this smoke and mirrors garbage.
Yeah.
And really lying, saying I can't talk about it when you can. It's just sealed. It just means I can't read the documents. That's it. I can see your case number. I can see it was you. I can see your birth date. I can see the day you were charged. I can see all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's still there.
I'm curious to see how all this shakes out.
So how is that fair? It's not fair.
Oh, no.
And it's not
fair.
okay.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
I think kind of similar to, like, we were talking about the Whitney thing as well. I think they have every right to talk about Whitney's business.
Yeah.
I think Whitney needs to talk more about Whitney's business. Honestly. Especially because everything that came out last season with Alibaba and how did this happen and was she an MLM? And she hasn't said anything other than it totally fucking failed and we lost all our money. I kind of want to see more of an explainer from her about that.
Yeah.
So I hope that she does, especially if they're all demanding all of this accountability. And it's like, all you have to do is not talk shit about Lisa, and then Lisa will probably chill the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
Because as long as the party's about Lisa is her number one biggest fan. But, like, I think you kind of have to be, especially in that world.
Oh, my God, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And honest to God, I'm maybe a little bit jealous of that kind of confidence. I do big things. I'm bigger than everyone else. People don't understand because they're not as awesome as me. That's gotta feel really good.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm Team Bronwyn and Team Lisa because I just want to see what happens.
Yeah.
I just want to see how this all shakes out. The only person I don't love what Whitney's doing. And I think Heather's heathering. I find Angie annoying.
Yeah.
I love Meredith. And I love Heather, even though Heather's heathering.
I love Mary.
I love Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Although Mary went after Meredith.
She did.
She was like, no, which...
She did.
If you're going to speak up at any time, that's the person that you're going after? The one that's really not that involved?
Yeah, weird.
I thought that was weird.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think Mary's ever saying anything. Like, some people, like Brittany is piping up. She's like, oh yeah, you're using Jen Shaw's eyebrow girl. Is that the same eyebrow girl that you said was texting Jared? I just want an explanation on that. And it's like, shut the fuck up, Brittany.
Brittany, stop.
No one cares that you're here. No one knows why you're here.
Yeah.
You weren't here for the A-team.
Yeah.
I wonder if she's going to have a reaction to that when she finds out about A-Team and
God.
D-Team.
Oh, I'm sure she will.
She was D-Team.
Yeah.
But Brittany's the only one that I feel like says things just so she could be, like, to remind everyone that she's still there.
Right.
Like, Mary would have no problem sitting back and saying nothing, but if she says something, it's because she actually needs to be heard in that moment. So that's why her going after Meredith was so surprising to me.
Well, Mary is so bold and so wonderful and so direct that if she didn't want to be there, she'd get up and leave. And before she left, she'd be like, I'm leaving because I don't want to be here. Bye. And she doesn't care.
No.
Doesn't care. She would do that. That's why I love Mary. Mary's the best.
Mary's great. And, like, this is the woman that maybe runs a cult.
Right.
And married her step-grandpa. And we're like, God, I love her.
I love her.
In her weird house.
Yeah.
Oh, Mary. Okay. So, waiting for next week. I don't think we even got a good, like, spoilers for what's happening next week, did we?
We did not. We did not. Although I did see a couple on Facebook, but we see Lisa invites Bronwyn to a lunch or a dinner or some restaurant so they can talk. And then Heather and Whitney, Heather is heathering to Whitney, and Whitney loses her mind, starts bawling and crying. I think they're at somebody's house, but I don't remember the context. Probably Lisa saying something Lisa said about Whitney. Heather says this to Whitney, and she loses her mind. So she's heathering all over again.
Okay, I want Lisa and Bronwyn to be friends. They were never friends.
No. That's how Bronwyn got on the show.
Was through Lisa.
Remember?
And then they, like, turned on each other. Yeah. But it was very fast. I think Bronwyn really wanted to be friends, and Lisa was like, the whole thing fell apart really quickly.
Yeah.
Someone also said that the reason Heather cannot, even though it seems like they should get along, the reason that Heather can't warm up to Bronwyn in a real way or accept her is because Bronwyn is doing things in a way that Heather wished she could have. Maybe she doesn't even totally realize it. Mm-hmm. They single-mommed in totally different ways. And I think that was an interesting take as well. But
I can see that.
I want Lisa and Bronwyn to figure it out. One, because this is fucking exhausting. And two, because I think they would be so much fun.
Yeah.
The fashion that they would have. Mm-hmm. Heather would be in so much of a better place.
Yeah. I get that. I get that.
Just Bronwyn and Lisa and Meredith all having a fun time together. I would watch the shit out of that.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like in hot tubs and bikinis and champagne and big hats.
Right.
I'm going to put it out into the universe. I'm going to get a TikTok witch.
Ooh.
Put that out into the universe. Can
we
be friends? Can we help me from friends?
I love that.
Okay, so should we move on to True Crime Story Time with Keely?
True Crime Story Time. Whispers in the dark. Truth leaves a mark. True Crime Story Time.
Have you ever seen or gone down the dark hole of fairies or fae traps on TikTok?
Some of them. I have gotten, I think, adjacent to that. There was a time when my feed was all Appalachia, like spiritualness.
Yeah.
And the idea that if you're walking in the woods at night or the evening at dusk and you hear something and someone's talking to you, no, you didn't hear them. No, you didn't. You just walk home and you shut all of your doors and you shut all of your windows and you didn't hear shit.
Yep.
Because it's Skinwalkers. Sam and I
Mimics,
got really into that for a while. I really enjoy old, is it Irish the Fae and the veil between our world's end, changelings and things like that. I do really enjoy that.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned the movie The Watchers. I think it's really interesting.
I do too. I
The
love
lore
it.
behind
And
it.
they even in Ireland now have those big mounds that they say are fairy homes all over the place out there, which I think is fascinating. And I watch those Fae Traps videos where people are walking wherever and they see, say, in the woods, and they see a tree branch that has made a perfect arch, right? They're like, that's a trap. Don't go underneath that arch, right? Or
like the circles of mushrooms.
the circles of mushrooms, or if you're walking on a path and there's no wind and you look over and a tree branch or a bush is waving like this, and then you look at it and it stops, like that's a trap. Don't go over there, kind of thing. I'm fascinated by those. And I have to tell you, something happened to me. I was by myself, of course, walking Boise River on just on a walk by myself on this path that I take all the time. And you've got the river, and then you've got a bunch of like trees and bushes and woodland, and then the path that you walk, and then homes on the other side of you. And it's always busy. And it's down at Julia Davis Park, and it goes towards, oh my gosh, the other park by the fish hatchery. I can't remember. Anyway. And so I take that walk a lot on the weekends. Steve and I will go. I'll go by myself. I'll take it at lunch. One time, this was not very long ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, something like that. I was walking and there was no wind. There was no wind. It was a very sunny, beautiful day. And I noticed that there was this bush, and part of it had these big leaves, kind of like a hosta looking kind of a bush, big leaves. One of the leaves was doing this quite erratically as I walked up to it. And I thought, oh my God, I am watching this happen right now, because I was waiting. I was looking around going, okay, is there wind? Did somebody just ride by on a bike? What is happening? And as I walked up to it, it stopped. And I walked past it, and as I turned around, still walking, it was still doing this. It started doing it again. And I just kept walking. I thought, don't go back, don't go back, don't go back, don't go back. And I didn't, but I did my loop, which comes back again, and it wasn't moving again. But I was so excited to see that. And I know, yes, you can call me cuckoo, but I was like, that is a fairy trap right there. Or something weird is happening right now. It was the middle of the day. It wasn't like at nighttime. I'm never going to go down there at nighttime. But I was so excited to see that. You have no idea. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm
a fairy trap.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. But this true crime that I picked out to watch is on Hulu, and it's called Blood and Myth, and it's about Alaskan natives, and these little people, or the wild people that they believe in, that live in the woods. So there's a supposed murder. Well, there is a murder, and then two other men. So his mom gets killed, and then he shoots two other men. But the premise of the story is he's basically blaming it on the influence of these little people that are in the woods that they believe in. It's really good. It's not very long. It's just a little over an hour. So it takes place in northern Alaska. The gentleman that's making the documentary, we kind of get to see the other side of it, which I thought was interesting. You usually don't see the person kind of making the film, but the person that's making the film is a native Alaskan, and he's part of the Inuit tribe up there. And he just explains that, it's very remote. They're very small villages up there. And so he lives in a city called Kotzebue, Alaska, that has a population of just a little over 2,000, which is teeny tiny to me. And he talks about, I guess, the Western world's view of Native Alaskans, what people call them Eskimos, right? And they have these caricatures of them on Bugs Bunny where they're wearing furs or carrying, these walrus horns and just kind of not speaking English, just making noises and dancing and drumming. And how that's really how everybody kind of sees them. And he said they were really the last really get, I guess, in contact with the West or the Western culture, right? They did not, Native Alaskans didn't really do that until in the 1959 is when Alaska became a state. That's not very long ago.
No.
It's just not very long ago. But so he says, his name is James, and he's saying, look, I didn't want to work in the mines, and I didn't want to work in the fields, and so I started playing drums and doing music. He said one day he heard on the radio about this true crime case that we're going to talk about that has to do with this man named Teddy Kyle Smith, and he's a Native Alaskan, and he lives in an even smaller village called Kayana, which only has like 300 people that live in this village. And so we hear on his car radio that Teddy's mom is dead and 2 men are shot and no one knows why, but Teddy Kyle Smith is a former Marine, and James starts to get really interested in this story and wants to find more about this story. This gentleman, Teddy, had a lot going for him. He was in a movie called In the Ice. It was an Native Alaska movie, and he made it really big. He kind of got out of the small town that they were living in. And so James recognizes Teddy from this movie that he'd seen as a child and decides to make a record request from the courthouse to get all of these audio files and video files and documents from what happened. We get to listen to courtroom audio. We get to listen to the troopers' audio when they have contact with him. And it's super interesting. So the first audio we listen to is Teddy talking about these little people that he saw, and they call them the Anukans. And they're kind of this mystical creature that they're not really supposed to talk about, but they know that they're there, right? They live out in the woods, but if you don't bother them, I guess they don't bother you back, right? But a lot of people have different stories that they have these shamanistic kind of spiritual healing powers. And so that's why they have a lot of respect for them. We know you're there. We respect that you're out there, but we don't really want to have anything to do with you. Just leave us alone, kind of a deal. So he says, living in his cabin, he knew that these Inukans lived out in the woods by his cabin because he would hear them throwing pebbles at his house, and he would hear them whistling outside. And he said, I finally got to see them one day after hearing them around me, that he got to see them one day. So we go back to James, the gentleman that's making the show. He says that his great-grandfather wrote a book kind of basically about these different stories that they grew up with their culture. And the first story is about these Anukans, that being a storyteller, we find out in their village and their tribe is kind of like a higher calling, is really like a chief or a shaman, somebody that tells stories. And so his great-grandfather wrote this book, and he says the book was written and recorded with an anthropologist, somebody that goes out and looks for the reasoning or the actual scientific clues behind it. He says one of the stories in the book, his grandfather says he was walking along some high ground near a creek, and he said he saw two men, and his grandfather said, I just saw them, but I pretended to notice them. Like, oh my gosh, there you are. And he said these men, when they stood up, were two dwarves, and they called them the little men. But he said in his book, his grandfather said, I saw them before. We get to see throughout the documentary people making sketches of them.
Mhm.
And I wrote down that it was kind of a cross between like a Yeti, maybe with not so much hair, and like a goblin or a troll, kind of what they were
Yeah.
sketching out that they saw, because everybody said they were so dark when they saw them,
Mhm.
almost like a shadow, but they could see
Dark,
their faces.
a
Yeah.
big head,
Yeah.
broad shoulders, but small and stout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And James tells us that long ago that Native Alaskan people and tribes used to live alongside these Inukans, these little people, and then somehow there was bloodshed between the two of them, and they just kind of disappeared and went away. These little people live nomadically. They're kind of all over the place. They travel and they don't like to be seen. But they have like leathery looking skin, and they speak in an old form of their Inuit language. He said they whistle like birds, or they whistle like squirrels. But people really believe that they have like this superhuman power strength. And they also believe that they have the power of possession. Like these little people could possess you in some way and make you do or say something, apparently. But it was fascinating. I loved watching this because their culture and their traditions, to have that is so special,
Mhm.
and so wonderful. I don't have that. I don't have anything like that. But to have that culture and that tradition that you can pass on to your kids, or you can have stories about, I think is completely fascinating.
I think that, yeah, I thought what this documentary did really well was kind of dive into the
Yeah.
culture and how it has played out, how kind of the
Yeah.
Western culture has maybe removed a lot of that, and so they've
Mhm.
had to really dig in to
Yeah.
keep what they can and hold on to that.
Yeah.
I also thought it was really interesting. One of the things he says in the very beginning is that the way that it is up in Alaska, up north,
Mhm.
the way that the way of life up there,
Mhm.
the land doesn't care that you're there.
Yeah.
And the way that he said that I thought was so interesting because, I lived in Boise, but I live in Florida now, and I spend a lot of time living right outside DC for most of my life. And everything is built around humans. We have developed all of that land. All of that land is in service to us.
Yeah.
And so, as he said, the land doesn't care that you're there, and they're showing the people that live there and going back and showing kind of the more traditional lifestyles that they had, when they were being more nomadic on the tundra. I thought it was so interesting because it's so different than anything I've ever experienced.
Right.
And the way that they live is much harder. It's also in connection with the land,
Yeah.
and it's dependent on the land, and they're working in service of trying to be part of that ecosystem versus molding it around themselves.
Yeah. Right.
And I found it really amazing. And
Yeah.
then also, as we're hearing more of their culture and more of their stories, I thought it was a little bit fascinating. You had talked about fairies. There are elements of this that align with these classic fairy, like the evil version of fairies
Yeah.
that you hear about from the UK hundreds of years ago, and how these are literally on opposite ends of the northern hemisphere, but they're telling very similar characteristics of these creatures. So I thought that was interesting.
I thought that too. I'm so glad that you thought that, because I thought that exact same thing. So James tells us that he wants to see if he can talk to Teddy, because by now Teddy has been, apprehended and convicted and in prison. So he contacts Teddy's lawyer, and she says, no, you can't talk to him. And so then James says, well, I'm just going to start from the bottom. I'm going to go back to Guyana and talk to all the contacts, all the people that I know there, to try and go through this chain to figure out what happened. And so he flies into Guyana, and he meets with his friend named Bob, and Bob says, look, you need to go and talk to Annie. Annie was the first person there when Teddy's mom was found dead, and so she can tell you what's going on. So James goes over to Annie's house, and Annie says that she heard on the radio that Dolly Smith, that's Teddy's mom, Dolly Smith, is dead. She hears Teddy say on the radio, Dolly's dead. So Annie's like, I'm going over there. And she thinks about it. She's like, I don't know why I went over there. Why the hell did I go over there? But I go over there. And it was so interesting to me. You and I are so used to having a freaking cell phone and have everything freaking instantaneous. And these people are hearing it on these two-way radios. This is what they're hearing going on in their community. Because I said there's like 300 people that live in this village. It's teeny tiny. So she goes over to the house. She says she walks in, and Teddy's sitting on the couch. He's just sitting there smiling. And she walks past him, goes to try and find Dolly, his mom, goes in the bedroom, and Dolly is on the floor. And so Annie tries to feel for a pulse. She says she feels a light, faint pulse. So she gets really nervous. She says also that she notices that there's a cord wrapped around Dolly's neck. And I want to talk about this again in the end.
Yeah.
Anyway, she said there's a cord, and it looks like in the pictures, maybe a telephone cord that you would plug in to the wall. That's kind of what it looks like. Plastic.
Like maybe it was plugged into an answering machine.
Yeah.
Or something.
So she says that's around her neck. So Annie says she calls the clinic, and these health aides come over, and they do CPR on Dolly, but Dolly has died. She is no longer with us. And Annie says, when I come out of the room after they're doing CPR, Teddy's gone. They have no idea where he went. So Annie then says she calls what's called a VPSO, a Village Public Safety Officer. People, they don't have police there. They have this VPSO, this public safety officer, come over. They don't even carry firearms. They don't
allowed to
carry guns.
Crazy to me.
It seems out freaking outrageous to me that they're not allowed to carry a firearm around there.
I'm spoiling it, but they do say that Alaska has the most firearms per capita than anywhere else in the United States.
Then that makes me want to have a firearm as a police officer or a public safety officer, because everybody's carrying or packing.
Yeah, he said literally everyone has a gun. And you kind of have to, because you're in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yes, 100%.
You're dealing with bears. You're dealing with...
Right.
I mean, a moose can kill you.
Yes.
And will. Yeah.
Yeah, those things are like bigger than RVs. They're huge. Anyway, so this public safety officer is only allowed to carry a can of pepper spray and an audio recorder. They finally call in Alaska State Troopers. We get to hear the audio of that where they're talking to Annie about, okay, tell me what you saw, what you heard. She says, look, I saw or heard on the radio that she was dead. I went over there. Teddy was here. And now he's gone. So I'm assuming, they don't really say this, but I'm assuming they're outside. They go outside of the cabin, and Annie says, then Teddy pops out of nowhere. All of a sudden, Teddy is there. And so the trooper is saying, hey, can you stop? Hey, Teddy, I want to talk to you for a minute. Hey, can you come over here and answer some questions? Hey, I want to talk to you for a minute. And he's not complying. And Annie even says, hey, it's me, Annie. Can you come over here and talk to us? And then the next thing you hear is a gunshot. Apparently, Teddy now fires off a gun in the direction of Annie and these troopers, and then he's just gone. They think that he went down into like a lower portion of a building that they own. So they go and do this search for him, and they still can't find him. And they're walking around talking to all the neighbors trying to figure out where he's at. They go back inside Teddy's house and they see a shadow, and they find out it's just the family dog that was in there.
Yeah. The officer the trooper that was describing this, he was quite poetic.
I know. I liked him. The guy with the no hair, right?
Yeah. And voice did not match his face.
No, his voice was kind of strange, but yeah.
But seems like a really good guy.
I liked him a lot.
We walked down the hall and there's this stream of sunlight breaking through, and it was just like, one, vivid memory, sir.
Thank you.
And two, what an incredible storyteller. So,
yeah, he was beautiful. So they put the village on lockdown because they're not sure where Teddy is. And they go inside Teddy's residence, which is not the same as Dolly's. Go inside Teddy's residence, and he has 59 firearms in his house. Talk about being, right, heavily. A lot of them, they tell us, are high caliber rifles, but they have no sign of him. He's completely in the wind. He's totally gone. They're interviewing people in the village, asking, do you know where he went? To have any idea what's going on. Annie tells James that he should talk to Teddy's sister Lorena because she would know what happened that day. And so we see James go over to Teddy's sister's house, Lorena, and she's standing outside kind of on her porch, and he walks up to her and says, hey, can I talk to you for a minute about Teddy and your mom? And she's like, no, go away. I have way too much anxiety. I can't talk to you. I'm not going to talk to you. So he says, okay, I'm so sorry. And he leaves. So the sisters can't talk to her. Then James listens to an audio that he has in the records request from court where Lorena is describing that night when that day when she went over to her mom's house. She said she went into her mom's room and her mom was laying on the floor, but there was something near her mom on the floor, something, it looked like a cord, but she says it wasn't wrapped around her neck. And they clarify, they're like, wait, it wasn't or it was? And she's like, no, it was not wrapped around her neck. So I wasn't quite sure what to glean from that, where one person that literally walks up as it almost right after it happens says it was, then his sister gets there and she says it isn't. So we're not really sure at this point if she's been strangled, if the cord was even around her neck, right?
Yeah.
The VPSO, the gentleman that we like so much, he says, look, I'm walking through the house and there's no sign of struggle. The house is not in disarray. The house is perfectly still, fine, put together. Mm-hmm. We're not quite sure what happened in the house. We don't see any signs of foul play before you get into the bedroom. James talks about Teddy's mom and how she was a really good addition to the community. She was just a kind, wonderful person, and she was a really good seamstress also, that she used to make these really expensive fur parkas from,
they were incredible.
Right. And that when they go back to her house, that they notice that some of her fur parkas have been destroyed. They've been cut up into pieces. Mm-hmm. And they're not quite sure why, because why would she do that, right? When she's worked so hard on these beautiful coats and have taken so long to make these coats, and these coats are really expensive. Why would she cut them up? And why would another person cut them up? So they're not sure why these fur parkas have been cut up in her home. He talks more about the little people with his own mom. So he sits down with his own mom. She says, yeah, you know, we grew up telling these stories and hearing these stories from our family. And she said you could see little footprints outside in the snow or along the riverbanks, or you would see something, you know, run away from your camp and you couldn't really see it, or stuff would go missing from your camps. But she also says, you know, what are you going to do when people say, some people think they're good and some people think they're bad? You know, what do you think? And she says, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to feed the good dog and keep that dog alive? Or are you going to feed the bad dog and keep the bad dog alive? And I really liked how she kind of put that into perspective in deciding, one, if you believe in these little people and these stories that you hear growing up, and two, are you going to decide that they're good, or are you going to decide that they're bad, right? Meaning, are you going to feed the bad dog? Meaning, I'm going to think about, constantly believe that these are evil things and keep that story going, or I'm going to believe that they're good and keep that story alive. I really liked.
Hot Priest.
Yeah.
Hot Priest from Fleabag said that. We talked about this before.
Yes.
Like, you can choose.
Yeah.
You get to decide what to believe.
Yeah.
And why would you not pick something beautiful?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I really liked that. These people are just so intuitive. Yeah, the way that they think and talk. We get to hear another recording, and it's Teddy this time describing after he left the house. He says, I left the village and I went downriver, and I went through the trees and the willows and along the beach. And he said, look, I had no destination, but I believed I was being led somewhere. He said he was told to take a parka, but then he says, look, I don't know who told me that. I go back and forth. I watched this twice, and I go back and forth believing him in the sense that he saw what he saw and he believes in what he saw, or the sense that he's a manipulator and he might have some mental health DID issues going on, and hearing voices and believing those voices and then manipulating you into thinking, oh no, it's this story that I was taught as a kid. I'm not crazy, right? Do you know what I mean?
You don't have, this is what I think happened. You didn't leave there with like a strong of, because there's other times that we've watched these and you've gone, this is what it is. And you don't have that feeling this time. I don't have that this time because I watched it twice. And spoiler alert, one of the jurors in his jury trial says, James says the jury thought he was acting when he was telling these stories about the Anukans, about the little people, as part of his defense, basically. And the juror says, that didn't have any place in our deliberations, an account of an attempted murder. So I was thinking about that going, because he's an actor and he's really good at his job and he's really charismatic, believable. I was thinking maybe he does have a little bit of schizophrenia, right? And he wants you to believe, right, that he's not mentally ill, but it's easier for people to believe that he sees these things out there. I'll get to this at the end, but what I really think, my final thoughts. But anyway, so
he's saying, look, I was being led. Somebody told me to go here, but I don't know who told me to go here. He says, I believed that they had influence, these little people had influence over me. He said, I went to the mountain closest to Cayenne, and he goes, I had no food, I had no water. I lived on berries and ice because the rivers had frozen over. And he had trekked miles up into the mountains where they were explaining you could get hypothermia instantly if you were not ready or dressed or had the gear for this. And he didn't. He really didn't have what he needed up there, but somehow he survives, right? And he's telling us one night when he was camping, he says he had visitors. That was the first night he had visitors at his camp, and he could hear about 20 of them outside walking around where he was at, where he was camping. And he said, wherever I decided to sleep every night, they were there. They would come. I could hear them walking around. I could hear them talking to each other outside. He said they would talk amongst each other, and then they would talk about me. But they were always outside my tent. And then he said they would make noises like birds and squirrels out there. He said one night he finally found a stream that had water. It wasn't frozen over, and he went to get the water from the stream. And across the stream, he finally saw them that night, that they were standing far away and they were all really dark. And then he said they spoke words to him. They spoke 3 words. They said gullible, they said weak, and they said death. And he had no idea what was going on. But he said he thought that if he agreed with them, that would be like an invitation for him to go with them. And he knew that if he went with them, he wasn't going to come back. That's just something that you didn't do when you saw them. So he says that he was on foot for 10 days. 10 days doing 40 miles. That's really good time, just so you know. I mean, come on. 40 miles in 10 days.
I mean,
anyway,
through where he was at, with
Right.
like, he has a parka on, but no other tools or anything.
Right.
Really?
So he finally says, I stumbled upon a cabin, and he was just thankful that he had found somewhere. And James explains to us that there's these hunting cabins, these hunting lodges that people go to kind of go off the grid. There's no landlines, there's no cell phones, there's no cell phones don't work up there. You're just kind of stuck. And people go up there to hunt. And they explain that the only way to communicate is with these really small 2-way radios, or a marine band radio or a CB. That's it. That's how you communicate with anybody else when you're in the cabin if you need to get like help or something. So Teddy says, look, I found this cabin. I went in there. They had food inside. I went in and I had some food and I went to sleep. And he said, I woke up because 2 men named Paul and Charles Buckle, brothers that were bear hunting up there, came in the cabin. He said, I heard them come in, and Paul is interviewed, and he said, I saw Teddy and I recognized him from living in Cayenne, because Paul lives in Cayenne also. He goes, but I didn't know his name. I didn't know him. I just knew that he lived in the village. And so he tells Teddy, right, me and my brother are bear hunting up here, and we know the people that loosely own this cabin, and they said we could go into this cabin anytime. And so here we are. And so Paul explains that Teddy tells them his name is Paul also, and he's there doing work on the cabin. And so the brother's like, oh, okay, whatever, right? Why would they have any reason to discount this person being there? And so he says, look, we had our rifles, our firearms. I saw a pistol sitting in the kitchen. I didn't really think anything of it because people, like you said, have guns up there for bears.
Everyone's got one.
Right?
Yeah.
So he's like, I wasn't really worried about it. He said the three of them sat down and had coffee and hot chocolate and talked for like an hour. And then Paul said, I wanted to find my satellite phone, the sat phone. And he said, I thought it was in the kitchen where the pistol was near, but it wasn't in there. He said, everything kind of changed when I stood up and was like, I need to find the phone because I'm going to call Julie. And so Paul says, I went upstairs to look for the phone, and my brother Charles and Teddy stayed downstairs to look for the phone. He said the next thing he heard was a gunshot. Teddy now shoots Charles in the chest, and the bullet goes through Charles and out a window. Comes downstairs and is pleading with Teddy not to hurt them or shoot them anymore, and to please give him the phone so he can call in medevac to help Charles. And Teddy starts screaming at Paul, look, I want your boat and I want everything you have. And Paul says, fine, okay. He goes, I go down and I bring up the boat and I tie it off. And then Teddy shoots him. He shoots him in the back of the shoulder, he says, in the back of the right shoulder, and it comes out the front of his shoulder. And he says, then I just stumbled off into the woods, and I kind of hunkered down and waited because I didn't know what he was going to do. He said Teddy got all of their stuff, took all the food, took all their gear, took everything they had, put it in this raft, and then just floated downriver. Paul said, I found Charles outside in the woods, and he was not doing very well. I mean, the man was shot in his chest, for God's sake. And he said, I'm really nervous at this point because nobody knows where we are, and I can't get a hold of anybody. And he just left with everything we have. And he doesn't know if his brother's going to die or not. He gets on the Marine Band radio, and he says he's hollering, and some young lady is awake in another city and hears it, gets him in touch with the trooper. And he says that it is 20 hours from the time that they are shot to the time that they are taken to a hospital, which is insane to me. And I know they're out in the Alaska wilderness and they're in the middle of nowhere and it takes time to get to them. And I totally get all of that on its face. But why these men didn't die, I have no idea.
No, his brother was shot through, which is better than having the bullet ping pong or explode inside of you.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
But through the chest, and his hit an artery.
Yes.
And he should be dead. It doesn't make sense that he didn't die because of where he was hit.
Yep.
Was still shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
They should both be dead, but they're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he thinks that there's something more greater in the universe moving that night.
Yeah.
And that's why they were alive.
Yeah. And he was so sweet. He teared up a little bit and he was like talking about his brother. And he said, I can't go to my family and his family and say, I let him get killed out here. I can't do that. And he was just so sweet. Anyway, so the troopers use bush planes to fly above the river to try and find Teddy. And one of the planes spotted Teddy on the river. So the troopers decide to set up an ambush along the side of the river, like where he's going to come eventually downriver to them around a corner. They said they laid in that brush for hours waiting for him to come down the river and come around this corner. And they said one of the troopers was given instructions to shoot the raft. So he had an inflatable raft. And one of the troopers was given instructions to shoot to kill. Teddy.
He said that he had a license to kill.
Yeah.
I was like, was that a real thing?
Yeah.
Was it a piece of paper?
Yeah, right? So Teddy finally comes around the corner, and you hear them on the audio call out to Teddy, you know, put your hands up, raise your hands in the air so we can see you. And they say that Teddy looks completely shocked. He has no idea what's going on. And he keeps looking around and looking up into the sky like God is talking to him, which again makes me think he's got a little DID going on. Anyway, so he keeps looking around. He's looking at the tree line, trying to find who's talking to them. They're shouting commands at him to put his hands up and not touch any weapons. So they said he puts his hands up in the air, but then his right hand reaches down to grab a hold of the rifle. And then they're still shouting commands at him. So he finally complies, puts his hands in the air, and then they say, you need to paddle over to the shoreline. So he does that, and they said, get out, walk over to us, and then get down on your knees. And then he said that he does that, and we see a picture of them arresting him on the shoreline, you know, him on his knees with the trooper around him. So then the next thing we go to is his trial. So he has a jury trial, and we hear an audio of the judge talking to him, which is fascinating to me. And the judge asking him, have you ever been diagnosed with a mental illness? And Teddy's like, no, I haven't. And Teddy is explaining to the judge about hearing and seeing these little people, right? And being under their influence to do and say things. And the influence increased slowly over time, the more that he heard them. And the judge asks him, if you hadn't done what they asked you to do, what do you think would have happened if you just didn't comply with them? And he said, I don't know. I've thought about that over and over again. I just don't know what would have happened if I didn't do what they said. We find out that the ACLU and the Native American Rights Fund get involved because they say that the villagers in Guyana would be more receptive to hearing his defense about these little people influencing him to shoot the two men over just getting a jury from Anchorage or somewhere like that. And they tell us that the defense has kind of a hard hill to climb with Teddy because they're trying to portray him as sane and competent to stand trial. But then the entire time Teddy speaks, he talks about these people that he sees and hears telling him to do stuff, right?
And he's very matter of fact.
Yes.
In these recordings.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't sound like he's weaving a tale.
No.
You know?
No.
It sounds like he's just like,
right.
This is what happened.
Right. That's why it's really hard for me to decide whether I don't know whether I believe him or not. The jury, like I said, the jury believes the prosecutor. They think that Teddy is manipulating them and acting right while he's talking about these little people in court. So they find him guilty of attempted murder, and he gets sentenced to 99 years. We find out that Alaska does not have the death penalty. And basically being sentenced to 99 years in prison is basically a death sentence because he's never getting out.
And that's for attempted murder for these two men.
Right. For Charles and Paul. The next thing, James is, talking about the proof that they have found for these little people. He said most of the stories that come out are told about these little people happen in what's called the circle in Alaska. And the circle is made up of 3 national massive national parks: the Noatak National Preserve, the Gates of the Arctic National Preserve, and the Kobuk Valley National Park. And those parks have never been explored, or people just don't go there enough. But all the stories that come out, these little people are seen in these parks and preserve areas. So it happens that the state of Alaska wants to make this road, this road that goes through all these parks to mine these minerals, to take these minerals out and take them to Anchorage. But they have to have archaeologists and geologists, look at the area around before they build the road to make sure that they're not going to interrupt the ecosystem, right? Mm-hmm. So we find out that there are 3 tribal liaisons that go with these scientists to look at these ecosystems. And the BLM puts out this flyer. James finds on his Facebook one day that a friend had posted this BLM flyer because the BLM is asking for the community's help because they found something out there that they're not sure what it is, but they also know what it's not, right?
Right.
And so the flyer actually says words that say potential sacred sites and potential little people homes.
Right.
And what I'm thinking, before I saw the picture or the video, I'm thinking of those mounds in Ireland is what I was thinking of. But they're not like that. So James finds out that one of the tribal liaisons is a person that he knows named Mary. So he goes to interview Mary. And he says, "What did you see? Tell me what you saw." And she said, "I saw little people homes. These homes."
I think she said, "Fucking little homes."
Yeah.
She was like,
yeah. She said they were made out of giant boulders and that they kind of formed a wall. And she said it's not anything that we make because Alaskan people make homes out of sod and tundra because that's warmer than stone, than these boulders. And so we see these video footage of her and them in a helicopter flying over these homes. And it's super interesting because they're really big and kind of long, rectangular shaped.
They're very squared off, which doesn't match the natural rock formations that are in that area.
Right. So she says, "You have to stop working. You can't do this. This is their land and we can't disturb their land. You have to stop." So after that, James then gets a call out of nowhere from Teddy's sister, Lorena, that she's ready to talk to him about what happened. And so he meets with Teddy's sister, which she looks just like him. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Will you tell me about what happened with your mom?" And she says, "My kids wanted to see my mom that day. And so my kids went over there and spent the whole day with my mom." And he asks her, "Do you think your brother did this? Do you think your brother killed your mom?" And she said, "Absolutely not. My brother's not like that. He would never hurt my mom." The whole time I'm listening to her talk, her brother shot 2 people for no reason. And she's sitting there saying, "No, he wouldn't do anything. He's not like that." Ma'am. I'm sorry, ma'am. Oh, anyway. So she just says, "No, I don't think he did it. I don't think he had anything to do with it." And James says, "Why do you think he ran? Why do you think he left?" And Lorena says, "I think he left because he thought people would just blame him because he was there, right? Mm-hmm. I'm the only other person in the house. They're going to think that I did it." And he was scared, and that's why he ran. She said he also said that Teddy was drinking that day. And so maybe he himself wasn't sure if he had done anything to her.
Yeah, I thought that was so sad.
Yeah. And that's another reason maybe why he ran. James reads the coroner's report to us. And the coroner's report says no obvious sign of external injuries, no significant injuries or signs of foul play discovered, and no signs of strangulation. What is going on?
Yeah.
He rules her death undetermined. He doesn't say natural causes, and he doesn't say homicide. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
the
know.
whole as you go through this, you think this is all being spurred by him murdering his mom.
Right.
And then you realize that no, the reason he's in prison for the 99 years is because of the attempted murder of the brothers.
Right.
Fair.
Yeah.
Right? He shot
Right.
both of these men and stole all their gear and left them for dead.
Mm-hmm.
But none of this is because of what happened to his mom. We don't know what happened to his mom. No one knows what happened to his mom.
No, to this day, we don't know what happened to his mom. Do you infer that these little people came in and killed her? Do you think she saw them and died of fright? Like, I don't know. Nobody is even giving us any sort of example or what it could have been.
No one knows.
No one knows. So James finally, as a last-ditch effort, the end of the show, writes Teddy another letter saying, hey, please, can I talk to you? And Teddy calls him back from the prison after he receives his letter. I think he called him and decided to do the interview because James said in his letter, I put money on your books.
I put money on your books?
Yeah.
Well, I like Teddy.
Yeah.
He's done this horrible thing, but he also they give a lot of his backstory, and so he had acted in this movie and then got himself out of the town, but also was volunteering at the school to teach the children Inuit crafting and Inuit skills, and volunteered his time for the whales and all of these different things that, he seemed like a good guy that was trying. He also then, I think they had said that he got a little, what was it, Onga?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He got a little big for his britches. He was like, he got a little bit of money, a little bit of fame, and got a little too big for everybody. But he seemed like he cared about things. And yeah, he got money on his books. But I was like, maybe James did make such a good impression because he sent his grandfather's book.
He did.
Which I thought was such a beautiful gesture.
Yeah.
But he did also put money on his books in prison. Yeah,
so Teddy calls him and says, yeah, I want to talk to you, but I don't want to tell you everything over the phone. You need to come and see me. And that's the last 10 minutes of the show is James interviewing Teddy at the prison. So Teddy walks in and they have this kind of sweet moment where James is like, I really feel I'm so much like you, right? I tried to escape. I was drinking a lot and partying and I had no rudder and no path in my life. And I thought, I'm either going to end up dead or in jail, and I need to figure my life out. And so not doing these things anymore. Because Teddy was a very heavy drinker as well. And we find out a lot of people in these villages are heavy drinkers. And they explain to us that you could buy like a bottle of whiskey in Anchorage for $10. But in these smaller villages, you have to find someone that makes that alcohol.
Right.
And you buy it from them for $200, right? anyway, so they have that sweet moment, and then James finally says, "What happened? What happened with your mom?" And Teddy says, "You're not going to get an answer." And I kind of got a little bit mad at him for that. I didn't like that. And I'm not saying that he needs to confess or anything, but he was kind of snarky and snotty.
Well, it felt like a power move
Yeah.
in that moment. I think James handled it really well, though.
Oh, yeah.
He went, okay, and then moved forward.
Yeah. Teddy did say, "Look, I didn't do it. But no, you're not going to get any more information from me about that." James asks him, "Why did you shoot those guys? Do you feel bad for shooting those guys?" And the Buckles in the cabin. And Teddy says, "Hey, I would not grow as a person if I did not feel sorry for what I did and have remorse. So yeah, I do feel sorry for what I did, and I wish them all kinds of blessings in their life, and if I can do anything to help them, I will." And then he talks about, James asks him about the little people. He said, "Tell me about that and the first time you saw them." And he said, "Thinking about that since I've been in here," he said, "I thought they were wanting me to go with them. And I heard those words weak, and I heard those words death and vulnerable. And I thought that it wasn't what I had thought that they meant, that I was too weak to go with them, that I couldn't go with them. And that I, was too vulnerable to be able to go with them because I wasn't living my life correctly." He goes, "So I took what was going on the wrong way." Which, like, I go back to what James' mom said, good or bad, right? Do you believe they're good? Do you believe they're bad? And I think Teddy believed that they were bad. But then after being in prison and thinking about it, he's like, "I think that they're not that bad, that they were good, trying to show me that I was ruining my life. I wasn't living the correct way. I needed to go down a different path." Teddy said, "If I didn't know that I had a choice to not listen to them. And if I didn't listen to them, I wouldn't have shot the two brothers. Like, that would have never have happened. But I didn't understand at the time that I had a choice to not do those things." So that's kind of really where they end. I mean, you just see James go back to his family and talk about, Teddy's story is a cautionary tale of, self-destruction and ending up in jail and prison and trying to find out who you are, trying to go back to, your culture and your traditions with your family and passing those on. My take on the whole thing is, like I said in the beginning, I wish I had that kind of deep culture for my family, or those traditions for my family that I don't have. And I think that's so beautiful and so fascinating that these tribes have those things for their family to pass on. But also, like I said, I am not really sure about Teddy. Like you said, he spoke so eloquently and so confident about what he saw and what he heard. I believed that he believed that stuff. But again, listening to him again, watching it a second time, I wonder if he was a little bit manipulative and maybe did have some mental health going on. We'll never know, but
one of the things that James talks about, and he talks about it with the other guy, and they were both talking about their sobriety and how they had before the culture of drinking is so different in these small communities than it is in the city. Because when you were drinking to get drunk.
Yeah.
You were drinking to get blackout. And Bob says, one time I went on a bender for 8 months straight.
God, yeah.
And I think that it has a lot to do with the identity of their culture and being connected to their culture, while at the same time they're living in a more westernized society. So the clash of those things. And so how do you have, if you were Teddy and you were kind of espousing the values and traditions of being Inuit, while your success comes from buying into being in Hollywood, right? And and how that you were you're trying to get out of this small town, but also that's where your values should be. So you're trying to kill that part of yourself, but then you kind of lose who you are. I thought that was a really kind of beautiful, like dark but beautiful message.
Yeah.
And that's not uncommon. I mean, we've Western colonization has destroyed the cultures and kind of pushed that out and stolen that culture from a lot of these communities.
Yeah.
These people in northern Alaska, it didn't happen until much later. And I think James kind of describes it as, in the early 1900s, the Inuits were living kind of at the twilight of the Stone Age. And then all of a sudden, their, Western culture, modern culture is like punched them in the face and is taken over everything. So I think that's got to be really difficult to navigate, and why a lot of these Indigenous people do end up turning to drink, because these two different things are in such conflict with each other.
Yeah.
So I think I like James's take on it, that he looks at Teddy as a cautionary tale. I think he believes Teddy.
Oh, yeah.
I think James believes Teddy.
Yeah.
And I think that him deciding to look at it as, I want to make sure that I am going along the right path, and that if I want to know about this, if I want to continue this on, this is how I'm going to do it. I liked his message overall.
I did too.
And it was really interesting, and I would like to dive deeper into what is the folklore on that.
Yeah.
I think just folklore in general is really good.
Me too.
I have a friend who has a podcast where they talk about just folklore, and they tell each other old stories. Yes. Sort of the Story by Janie and Max, and they tell each other old fairy tales and folklore stories when they discuss it, and they're really fun. And Max used to babysit my kids.
Aww.
So I like them. If you like those kind of stories, they're really fun to follow. But yeah, I think this was a really fun and interesting one. And now I'm like, ooh, we need to find more. I feel like we've been on a very supernatural kick. And I'm totally into it. I want to dive in. I've got to see what else we can find.
I love it.
Yeah. And look, we're leaving again on this positive, hopeful note.
I know. I'm so happy.
No one cried this time.
I know. Right? My God. No.
Right.
No, we
So
were just
easy.
afraid that Whitney was going to punch Lisa in the face. That was it.
Yeah, this is just violence, this episode.
Really?
Violence and fairies and little people. Witches. TikTok witches. All right. So we'll do some more internet sorcery, our findings on that as we continue to delve deeper into it.
Yes, ma'am.
And see where we end up next week with Real Housewives, and see what other magical, mysterious / true crime, possibly documentary Keely has for us next week.
Yay.
Thanks for doing podcast with me. It was so
Thank
fun.
you.
I love you.
I love
will
you.
See you next week.
Bye.
And we love all of you as well.
Yep.
Bye.